to Jafar.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Ms. Elghawaby, for being with us. You have an important and yet a very difficult job with what I can only conclude is a tiny budget. I'd like to shift my question to the issue of expressions of Islamophobia that are hard to see, that are hard to detect, but beset the lives of community members throughout our country, and specifically with reference to Canada's anti-terrorism laws. The machinery of government, the CBSA, RCMP, CSIS, IRCC, CRA, all coordinate and function under a national security regime. And the National Council of Muslims has recommended that you review these frameworks. And even at this early stage, without any staff, can I ask you whether that particular point of view is part of your agenda?
Well, again, Madam Chair, thank you for this very good question, Senator Omidvar. So right within the mandate, already, I am committed to offering guidance to responsible ministers to contribute to training in support of national security agencies. So I have that to begin with immediately. And so that will be an important priority. And as I said, I will certainly be exploring what other ways I can work with the different departments and agencies that are responsible for national security. Certainly out of the 2021 Islamophobia Summit, we saw many recommendations related to training, related to the oversight of these different bodies. So I look forward to having strong staff in place to help me review what currently is going on, what recommendations have been made, what efforts have been already taken and are underway. I'm part of what's called the National Safety Transparency Advisory Group. I joined this group before taking on this role, in fact, due to my interest in human rights and specifically in the area of national security. So I've already begun to build relationships with various partners within the government, and I absolutely see this as an important and critical priority for the office.
I wish you luck. I want to refer to a recent poll by Angus Reid that has just come out. On the one hand, at least half of Canada believes that Islamophobia is a problem, that anti-Muslim discrimination is a problem, and yet they don't seem to agree that your role is necessary. So we agree that there's a problem, but there's disagreement about your role. What would you say to these Canadians about your role?
Well, I think I would say to Canadians who are wondering what is the purpose of this office that unfortunately and very sadly, we have seen Islamophobic attacks take the lives of 11 Canadians over the course of a short span between 2017 and 2021. Canada has the highest number of Canadian Muslims killed of any other G7 country. So already Islamophobia has had deadly impacts here in this country, but also that along that spectrum of Islamophobia, where the very worst example is the type of deadly attack that we've seen, that there is also concern about systemic Islamophobia that impacts on the ways that people can participate in society, whether it's the racial profiling that national security agencies have put our communities under, whether it's systemic barriers to employment, whether it's systemic barriers in housing and other aspects of everyday life, whether it's hate crimes. Again, the list can go on, that we have to look for solutions to address these issues because not only does this impact on Canadian Muslims and Muslim communities in this country, it impacts on all of us because when we have our social fabric being undermined, our democratic values undermined, when we have division within our society, that in fact can influence and harm our entire country. And so standing up for one community is standing up for all communities, and we must be allies to one another to stand up for human rights for all.
Second more. Even at this early stage, Ms. Elghawaby, of your role, we are winding up our study. So whether it's good or bad, I'm not able to say because our study could inform your work, but your thoughts should inform our work. What recommendations, maybe two, what recommendations would you have us include in our report?
Well, the importance of training for national security bodies is absolutely critical, and Senator Arnott mentioned the report from the tax ombudsperson today, where he identified the need for anti-bias training for certain members of the CRA, for instance, in the Review and Analysis Division particularly. And I'm very cognizant of the call from communities to suspend the RAD while the NCRA is doing its review. But given that, training is critical. So ensuring that there is anti-bias, anti-Islamophobia training is one area that's critical. And then certainly the recommendation to support education, again, in the campaign's awareness around how Islamophobia impacts on people's lives, but as well as on the contributions of Muslim Canadians to Canada, and not just Canadian Muslims, but also newcomers, immigrants. It's very important that people understand that Canadian Muslims have been in this country for, since before Confederation, and so there's a long and rich, diverse history that many people don't know. And so, if we can celebrate these stories, then hopefully that will allow more and more people to acknowledge and understand that history and appreciate it as well.
Thank you.